paid the cost to be the boss. That was the name of a bootleg that Bruce Springsteen had put out without his permission many years ago. But the fans also paid a cost sometimes just to go see the boss. And this is the story about how my buddy Gary Harnischfager and I went to Springfield, Massachusetts to see him at the Springfield Civic Center on September 13th, 1978. We didn't have tickets, but we figured we would go and get tickets from scalpers and just pay for it, because scalping wasn't that big of a deal then. It wasn't all that expensive either. Not like it is now, StubHub and all that crap. But the plan was I would pick Gary up, we would head to Kingston, get some roast beef subs at Mr. Broadway's, a really good restaurant on Broadway. And after that, we would just head to Springfield. We had plenty of time. Well, everything was going well until we finished our sandwiches and started to head towards Springfield. The drive shaft on my 1970 Ford Falcon decided to go. Just as we were getting on the thruway, and it just started to go. It was doing this vibration thing, which was scary as hell. And all I could think of was, we'll go to my house instead. I'll tell my father a story about how we need his car for the night. It was a Ford LTD station wagon with the wood on the side and all that. So we make it to my house. Dad's not doing anything. He said, "Oh, go ahead, take the car. Where are you going?" And I said, "Poughkeepsie," which is 25 miles away. We weren't going to Poughkeepsie, but he never knew. So we drove like maniacs to get there. Now, mind you, we don't even have tickets. And I don't think I went under 85 miles an hour the entire way, all the way to Springfield. Never saw a cop. We pulled into the parking lot about 5 minutes before the show was about to start. And we found, through the grace of God or the powers that be of rock and roll, a scalper had one ticket. And then we found another scalper that had another ticket. And he sold them to us for $10 each. Well, they sold them to us for $10 each. How could you beat that? But they weren't together. But we walked into the Civic Center. We found two seats in pretty good spot that were next to each other. And we just sat down in them. And no sooner did our asses hit the seats than the lights went down and the show started. It was freaking fabulous. And of course, that was the tour where he was playing almost 4 hour shows. And I still pinch myself every time I think about that story, because there's no reason any of that should happen except for the sheer power of rock and roll and Bruce. And that's a true story. And on the way back, we never saw a cop either. And I wasn't going as fast on the way back. My father asked me how was the concert in Poughkeepsie. And I said, "Oh, it was great." And that was it. So sorry, Dad, wherever you are. I did tell a little story. Anyway, that's it. That's my little Bruce Springsteen story for that one. I've got another story, which I might as well just tell here now. This one didn't involve Gary. This was when I was working at a place called National Micronetics in Kingston. Computer parts, bullshit job. And a friend named Joe Emick, who worked there with me, had connections to scalping was now getting bigger. This was 1984. Born in the USA was about to come out. And Joe said, heard from his friend Mike, who was connected to the scalpers, that 8 shows at the Burn Arena, which the Meadowlands, were going to go on sale like the next morning, which was a Saturday. This was on a Friday. We worked second shift. The only place you could get tickets back then was at a place called Abrams Music in Kingston. It was a music store, and they had the Ticketron. I think it was called Ticketron at the time. Machine there. I zoomed up there before our shift started, and I asked Al Abrams about the tickets the following day going on sale, and he said that he had no word of that at all whatsoever. And now I'm a little confused, because I think if the scalper guy was adamant that it was going to happen. And we made a couple calls to like the local WPDH, the local radio station, and they didn't know anything about it either. So we just said, "Oh crap!" So while we're at work, Joe keeps going to talk to his friend on the phone. This is before cell phones, so we had to make cell phone payphone calls. And his friend said, "No, his source swears tickets are going on sale tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock." Okay, so to be safe, during our lunch break that night, about 8 o'clock or something like that, I drove up to Abrams to see if there was any signs or anything on the windows. And the store is now closed. The uptown part of Kingston closed like at 6 o'clock or something like that, basically. And I was prepared. I made up a sign while I was back at work on a piece of paper that said, "Contrary to rumors, there are no tickets going on sale for Bruce Springsteen on Saturday morning. Sorry for any inconvenience." And I stuck that with a couple of pieces of tape outside the door at Abrams. Well, hoping it would work, something like that's pretty obvious. I put the sign up and left. We get done with work at 11 o'clock. We head up to Abrams, and there's not a soul in sight. Dark as a dungeon up there. So we just camped out, with our knowledge. We camped out on the sidewalk all night. About 1 in the morning, people started to show up because now the word had gotten out that it was happening. And before you know it, there was like 100 people were there. And the end result of all of this, sleight of hand or whatever you want to call it, was that we got second row seats for one of the shows. And during which Bruce came out in the audience like he would do sometimes during Spirit in the Night, and he hopped up on Joe's shoulders, and Joe was standing there holding the boss like this, and the boss's foot is kicking me, and I'm trying to get a photo but it was too damn close with the cameras we had. But Joe got some great photos with his Nikon camera after Bruce got off him. And that worked out real well, and we had clued in a lot of our friends, so a lot of our friends were also at that show, very close to us. But that's the stuff you just have to do, for rock and roll sometimes. Wouldn't you? Thank you.